In the studio with us, I'm so pleased to have Charles Sauer, the president of the Market Institute, marketinstitute.org, conservative or libertarian think tank, really.
I'm a libertarian. We work with libertarian and free market think tanks and associations.
Yeah, okay. And marketinstitute.org, of course, is the website, and you can tweet him at Charles, spelled the normal way. Sauer is S-A-U-E-R. And so, Charles, when capitalism periodically fails, I mean, you know, we've in spectacular ways, like 1929, 1857, you know, 1770, the big ones, smaller ones, you know, 1997, the big stock market crash under Reagan that led to a mini recession. You know, just right after his tax cuts of 96. The big one in 2009 following the bank deregulation of 1999. So when capitalism fails, it's not the fault of the working people. It's the fault of the people who are basically running the capitalist system. And if we have no mechanism to hold them to account in a way that helps the working people who get laid off and lose their jobs, shouldn't one of the roles of government, if we actually believe both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence saying that, you know, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, how can you have, you know, as Franklin Roosevelt said, how can you have freedom, liberty, if you're unemployed? You know, you're stuck. And of course, the Constitution over and over again talks about the general welfare. Shouldn't the government be the employer of last resort? If FDR did this with the WPA-CCC and put, you know, and dropped the unemployment rate in this country from 34% down to 12% in 4 years.
I guess this is a good holiday season question. It's should we how much money should we give away, or should we guarantee happiness to everybody? And I mean, I think you said it, it's the pursuit of happiness, right? I think you can't guarantee happiness. Even if the government is an employer of last resort, most of the people that are in those jobs aren't going to be happy. It's more than likely going to be an unfulfilling job.
I'm not trying to guarantee happiness. I'm trying to guarantee employment.
Well, but
it seems to me like the essence of freedom. It's if you can't find a job, you can't pay the bills, you don't have a place to live, you can't buy food, you can't afford medicine, you can't afford to get sick, how are you free? And so if part of freedom is at least having a job, using FDR's model of the best welfare program as a job, instead of giving people cash, he gave them jobs, right? They went to work where they planted over 1 million trees in the first year of the CCC. And, which, by the way,
he didn't give them. It's not jobs. He gave them government. He gave them taxpayer money.
Taxpayer-funded jobs.
Well,
you had to work for that money.
Maybe. I mean,
no, there's no maybe about it. People actually had to leave their families and live in these tent camps where they were you know, building roads and planting trees.
And if we think something like that is what would happen now, I think we're grossly underestimating what the left has pushed in recent years as far as
the Democratic Party is not promoting this. I am promoting this.
I tried to pull it off of you. It's I just think it's a really bad policy position. But that's because now for everybody who's in those jobs, if you're in a work camp, if you're in a tent and working, you're not looking for another job, because you're out someplace, not in a normal market, probably away from good internet connection, and where it's really hard to find a job. And now the government is also undercutting the private sector.
The second part of your argument we can debate. The first part, I mean, that was then and this is now, right? That was 1933. This is 2016. There's so much work that needs to be done in most cities in the United States and in most rural areas, frankly. There's so much literally work that needs to be done. Upgrading our infrastructure, rebuilding our roads. We've got water systems in this country that were literally laid in the mid-1800s, and most of them are made of lead. I mean, the problem of Flint, Michigan is not unique to Flint, Michigan. There's over 100 cities that have a similar problem, and there's nothing being done about this. The government could hire people and get it done.
So
what's wrong
I'm not going to debate you on the need for investment in our infrastructure, right? Our infrastructure is old, it's aging, and we're coming to the life expectancy of when most of it was built. The Republicans haven't noticed that on Capitol Hill.
Oh, they've been actively fighting it since Reagan. I mean, Reagan basically took the position that government shouldn't be responsible for infrastructure. We should privatize everything, you know, have toll roads. And this is what Mike Pence did in Indiana. Sell the toll road, sell the freeway off to an Australian company.
There's actually some reasonable arguments for privatizing it. I tend to go, there's Bill Niskanen, the former Bill Niskanen. He passed away a few years ago. He was at the Cato Institute and actually had a paper that one of the things that the government is more effective at doing than the private sector is building roads. But the question that started this isn't should the government be in charge of road building. I think that's
should the government be the employer of last resort.
That's so capitalism. That's what that proposal really is should the government be the employer of only resort? Because if capitalism
capitalism fails, should government be the employer? We had in 2000.
For how long, or how long of a fail? I mean, that's the problem.
Well, in the case of the Great Depression, it lasted about 6 years. In 2009, I mean, we were losing when Barack Obama came into office, we were losing 700,000 jobs a month. Now, that didn't just mean 700,000 destroyed families. That meant 700,000 people who were no longer consuming. That meant that the aggregate demand was going down. I mean, you're an economist. You understand this stuff. As aggregate demand goes down, the economy continues to sink. The economy was in a death spiral.
And President Obama did almost nothing to bring it out.
No, he got almost $1 trillion, an $800 billion stimulus bill that popped us right out of that.
No, he remember at the time he was campaigning on this. He was talking about shovel-ready projects. And if you remember at the time, he was widely panned for that because almost no project was going to begin for 5 years.
There were thousands of projects.
I know you love watching Fox News, but it was on a lot more channels than Fox News that he was panned for the shovel-ready project.
I haven't seen that anywhere except on Fox News and Right Wing Hate Radio.
Oh,
literally.
Man.
I have not heard anybody say there were no shovel-ready projects.
Right. Well, that's an easy.
There were plenty of them.
That's an easy counter side. I'll get that for you.
There were plenty of them. But the point is, and there are right now. There are right now. There is, you know, I mean, it may not be technically shovel-ready in that, you know, we know, for example, that, you know, we need to replace this particular bridge, but we haven't yet done the architectural plans. It might take 6 months. It might take a year.
So again, we're moving the conversation
but you know, we're running out of time here, Charles. What is wrong with the government being the employer of last resort when capitalism doesn't provide for it?
Because it slows down the recovery. That's the problem, is that when you're now competing with the private sector, you make it harder for the private sector to increase
So are you arguing that if in 2009, when Barack Obama became president and the Bush recession was causing us to lose 700,000 jobs a month,
the government shouldn't hire the bankers?
The government shouldn't have done anything, and we should have just lost, you know, 5 million jobs, 10 million jobs?
Again, you're talking about shouldn't have done anything versus being an employer. I don't think the government should have stepped in and employed a bunch of people like the bankers that went out of business. No, I don't think that's right.
Bankers went out of business.
Well, that's they're the ones that went under. That was the.
Are you being facetious?
Yeah, I mean, I'm being facetious.
You know, Sweden
on that.
nationalized their banks. It's just
the government stepped in and propped ours.
Iceland nationalized their banks.
I don't
Reagan
think the government should have
S&Ls.
Stepped in and done anything. I do believe that the government should have did step in. I don't think they stepped in correctly in that situation. I would love to go back over it and look at the way that the government should have stepped in. But no, the government should not be the employer of last resort.
Okay, all right. I guess we've got some clearly drawn lines here, if nothing else. Charles Sauer, you can tweet him at Charles Sauer, Sauer. His website, marketinstitute.org. Charles, thanks for dropping by.
Thank you.
Great talking with you. We'll be back with your calls and more. Stick around. It's 15 minutes past 8.